California Senator Dianne Feinstein has been hospitalized after suffering a fall. Feinstein, who is 90 years old and has been suffering multiple health issues as of late, was taken to the hospital on Tuesday as a precaution after falling at her home in California.
A spokesperson for the senator said Senator Feinstein briefly went to the hospital yesterday afternoon as a precaution after a minor fall in her home. All of her scans were clear and she returned home afterward.
This comes after a story about her having given power of attorney we covered last week, or they covered on Friday last week, to her 66-year-old daughter. Of course, giving someone the power of attorney doesn't necessarily mean that you are anticipating becoming mentally incapacitated or physically incapacitated. People, especially more affluent people, often do this so that they can have someone handle financial transactions for them in different parts of the country where they might not be able to show up personally, and she is in the middle of a dispute over whether or not she's going to sell a home that belonged to her and her ex-husband, and the ex-husband's children are apparently disputing that, so it could have nothing to do with her health
deceased
concerns.
Husband, right? It wasn't
yeah, deceased husband, sorry, yes. Former husband, I should have said. But the implications of a 90-year-old person who has been dealing with so many health issues doing this is just continuing the speculation that she is not fit to serve.
I mean, yeah, any reasonable person will reach this conclusion that, right, she needs to, she's now relying on a daughter to help make financial and medical decisions for her, which is a totally understandable thing for a woman at her advanced age, for a person at this advanced age to go through. This is something everyone eventually ends up going through with their parents and grandparents, and that's how it goes. But it is insane to have a person who is, on paper at least, in a body of one of the 100 most powerful people in the world, in the most powerful government in the world. There is no one on earth could possibly believe she is up to the task of making vital decisions relating to national security, domestic policy, and so on. At best, you start to have to do this thing where, well, the senator is just a figurehead and really their staff is the ones actually making all of these decisions. And I guess all of our people in the senator and political office are just, it could be anyone because it's really the staff doing it, which I don't think gets you to a very comfortable place. But that's like the best case you can make for this.
Well, and we don't have to live in the hypothetical realm. Remember, just at the end of last month, she experienced that moment of confusion, apparently, as she was about to launch into remarks before voting on an $823 billion military budget, and she had to be prompted to just vote aye. Remember that? Her staff?
In fact, I think we have that on video. Let's play it.
I would like to support a yes vote on this. It provides $823 billion. That's an increase of $26 billion for the Department of Defense, and it funds priorities submitted.
Yeah, just say aye.
Okay, just aye.
Yeah, so maybe that is the kind of
mouthpiece
moment that everybody can have, where you can obviously get confused and your staff can tell you that this is not the time or the place, you have a lot on your plate. Like, of course that could be true, but again, in the context of all of the other health issues she's been having, people have reason to be skeptical.
Mitch McConnell obviously had his blank moment the other day, maybe last week or the week before. Mm-hmm. This is, again, how many times we discussed this? This is an issue, the just extremely advanced age of so many of our most senior political figures, and it is troubling that an ostensibly functioning democracy, this is something that just regularly happens, that people are not even replaced by younger people of the same ideology. I mean, just somewhat competent people at all.
Well, remember, there is some issue with replacing her, whether or not losing the positions that she has on various committees will hurt the Democratic Party.
Could thwart it,
right.
Sure.
So, I mean, there are kind of strategic reasons that the Democratic Party won't just get rid of her. I don't think that they're clinging to her out of any sense of generalized loyalty or desire to keep her in the seat. But maybe that also does speak to some of the procedural failures of our system, and perhaps a lack of bipartisan congeniality, that perhaps in a different day and a different time, Democrats would not have had such a hard time replacing her, and there might have been more of an effort to say, well, you got me on this one, I'll get you on the next one, because but for the grace of God goes Mitch McConnell.
Right. Nancy Pelosi defended Feinstein robust defense of her right to occupy that seat as long as she wants, and she tried to do you're an anti-feminist if you're criticizing this. Just like you said, might be because maybe Nancy Pelosi needs that at some point. I mean, obviously she's not in her leadership position anymore, but
apparently there's some very complicated dynastic relationships happening in California politics between the Pelosi's, the Feinsteins, and the Newsoms that has created a lot of complications in the state from an endorsement perspective. They all have families that have relationships with each other going back, and the fact that each of them have various agendas in terms of the succession plan in California have caused there to be a lot of subtlety in the attacks on each other and the ways that they are trying to push and shove each other out. They can't come out so openly because they do apparently have this long-standing kind of entangled familial relationship, which is another huge problem with our alleged democracy. I will say the part of that Feinstein clip that is under-remarked upon is the enormous defense budget that is being raised by $20 billion with no pushback whatsoever. There is certainly bipartisanship for passing those kinds of military budgets, even if there is not bipartisanship for getting ill and elderly Congress members replaced.
Yeah, they don't fight over that, even though, again, Republicans ostensibly are concerned about government spending in general, and ostensibly some Republicans don't like what our defense priorities are, but yeah, they're not having a fight over it, which is a shame. I'd like to see less bipartisanship on some things, more on others, less on some things.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll be talking about this. I don't relish talking. I feel it's I don't like watching an older person in a position they can no longer occupy.
And again, not just older, but impaired, because it seems like Noam Chomsky's in his 90s doing just fine out there.
Yeah. Well, we will have more Rising right after this. Please stay with us.